Hey guys, it's Marichen. I am so sorry that I won't be joining Josh on these next few episodes of our podcast, but we come together and decided that the podcast needed to continue. We really wanted to keep this up monthly, and we failed miserably at that for the last year. We recently posted a podcast episode together and we wanted to continue to do more. I intended on making time for more episodes, but with my crazy workload and my crazy school load, I just have not had time to sit down and film and give time to this podcast that it deserves. So I am going to be sitting out a couple episodes. Josh has some really fun solo episodes planned that he's going to put out the next few months. And at the beginning of the year, probably around February or March, I will be back, I promise. We may even take a short break for January because January is a busy month for both Josh and myself. So I know we have something planned for November and December, but just hold tight and I will be back soon. I promise. I have just had so much going on and I don't want our podcast to suffer because of my shortcomings. So I hope you guys understand that I just really need to focus on my life right now, and I'll be back in a few short months.
Hello, dear listeners. I am Josh. Normally this would be where Marichen chimes in, but as you heard a moment ago, she will not be joining us, unfortunately. However, I welcome you to another episode of Collector's Confessional, the podcast where collectors confess their feelings about all things music. This is the first of a couple of solo episodes to continue to bring content to this channel. When I first approached Marichen about this podcast, I had no idea how much fun it would be, and how much I personally enjoyed making content for this. These next episodes will be a bit more scripted than the usual content. There's still probably going to be a little bit of ad-libbing, but it's overall scripted because I'm flying solo and it's much easier to read my thoughts out to y'all and be kind to editor Josh in the future. I enjoy the banter between Marichen and I just cannot create that magic without her here. When you're hearing this episode, it'll be most likely on or around American Thanksgiving time. I approached Marichen about making this particular content. When I did, she liked it, and I asked, did you want to make it a yearly episode? And she's all on board for that. This episode is going to cover artists I'm personally thankful for. Marichen and I have talked about artists we both like, but this allows for a space to really express those feelings as to why. While there are many artists I consider to be close to my heart, listing them all would be exhausting, and I probably would be leaving off so many. So to keep this episode a little bit more focused, I'm going to be covering 7 artists that got me through 2022 and had a deeper personal connection throughout the year. In a future episode, I'm going to be covering my overall best albums and best music of 2022, but there's going to be a little bit of crossover. So with that little bit of housekeeping done, let's begin. The first artist on my list that I'm thankful for is Myles Kennedy. I have been vocal in the past about how much impact his music has had on me, but I honestly wasn't expecting 2 albums with him attached to come out this year. In 2021, I put his solo album, The Ides of March, on my best of year list. I argued that for me personally, 2021 was the best year of music in my life. 2018 had that honor before, but I was completely blown out of the water, and I'm going to stand by that. 2021 is still the best year of music in my life, and while the highs of this year were really good, I'm not budging on my views. 2021 brought us 2 albums with his iconic voice. One with Slash and the Conspirators, and the other with Alter Bridge. The first album I'm going to talk about very briefly is 4, which is Slash featuring Myles Kennedy and the Conspirators, and it's a wonderful album. Love the guitar work and everything. I loved every moment I listened to that album, and I'm only going to briefly touch here on things because I want to really put my thoughts out there for the best of the year episode. So just know that it's going to be on there. Mini spoiler. And then later in the year, there was an album that had come out by Alter Bridge that I also liked. The music Myles is involved in usually gets me on the first note, and this was no exception. Again, spoilers for next time, but putting him on this list mainly because when I get into the when I get in the mood to listen to music, when his particular style of music, I listen to Alter Bridge a lot. I don't know what it is. He's also my go-to when I talk to anybody about unique voices in music. I also acknowledge that there are those around him who lift his voice up with stellar musicianship. The way he approaches music and lyrics is something I really admire, and that might be a little bit of a hint on who else might be on this list if, about lyrical quality. But for right now, I'm thankful for Miles just because of the music and all the enjoyment that I have when listening to it. It wasn't till very recently that I assessed who I wanted to talk about on this list, and Miles' name kept coming up in my head a lot, and I didn't realize the same kind of thoughts were happening when I was listening to Chris Cornell when he was alive. And it's not that I didn't appreciate him when he was alive, but it hit me harder when he passed away. And I don't want that to happen again. I know we all pass away at some point, but I want to appreciate Miles while he's alive. And that's why he made it on the list. So I think he's a great way for us to start. The next artist on my list should come as no surprise. I'm speaking, of course, about churches. There are very few acts that I hold as high regard as them, and this is not for any snootiness or lack of enjoyment of other artists, but very easy to please when it comes to music and what I like, and there are very few acts that break past the just pure enjoyment level and get to the layer that has a deeper meaning for me, like the fluff level of enjoyment. This past year, we lost a member of the church's community. His name was Shane, and I find myself thinking about him a lot. I joined the church's Discord, one of the church's Discord servers, thanks to a suggestion from a Paramore Discord server. And Shane was one of the people who I really enjoyed speaking to. I'm really thankful for the moments I got to share in the short time I got to know him. And that I was able to connect on a deep level without realizing over a song, and that song is Night Sky. I've also found overall that when I've needed to calm down, the album Screen Violence is something that I listen to. And I know it's very weird, an album that has dark undertones and horror undertones being something to calm down to, it's really weird. That the vicious nature and everything, it's for some reason, it's just hitting my calm buttons without realizing. Churches has been a band that musically I could turn to when I was not feeling right or just needed to be in the moment. I have synesthesia, which basically I process music differently on certain levels for certain things. Churches represents one of the few artists that consistently just fire it off in multiple ways. For example, I listened to the song Empty Threat, and I think of turquoise, like a dark turquoise. Synesthesia can sometimes feel like the gentle rubbing of the arm, a comforting rubbing of the arm, or like fingers tracing down your arm or down the back of your neck. Sometimes I can recall smells when I hear certain things. So they're one of the few artists that just fire that off no matter when I'm listening. Unfortunately, I was also unable to see them this past year because of scheduling and me being broke after my Disney trip. But despite that, they need to be on this list just as much as anybody else on this list. And they're just as much a factor in my life as anybody that I listen to. It was only after I started listening to them fully. I mean, I listened to them before, but it was when I was listening to them during D&D sessions. It truly sunk in how much their music meant to me and how much I enjoy getting others into their work. It's truly special that there are others out there who have a deep connection to the music and that I can share my thoughts on that. And even though we all feel it differently, it's we can all share in that deep connection. Shane, wherever you are, you're missed. You are sorely missed. I hope that whatever pain you felt never returns and that you found the peace you deserve. It's not the same. The chat's not the same without being able to say hello to you every day. And every time I listen to Night Sky, I think you're hanging out with me listening to it. Shane, you're one of the only people that I know that have as much passion for a song. Myself being Decode, but I've not seen somebody have as much passion for a song as I would for something, and that is truly meaningful. And I miss you. I honestly miss you, and I miss chatting about our love of churches. Since I don't know how long this episode will be, I wanted to thank you, dear listener, again for checking out this podcast. Links for the socials for the podcast, Marichen and myself, will be in the description below. This episode is about being thankful, so I wanted to reach out right now to you, the listener, and say wholeheartedly thank you. This podcast has always been a passion project, and to have even one person listening means the world. Thank you again. All right, let's get back into it. When I was drafting this episode, I had no intention of what order I wanted to present the artists in, but as I was writing it, it became more and more clear the order that I wanted to go in and how the flow was turning out. I am now presenting the artists in the order of how thankful I am for their music and how much they impacted my year. And as we go along, the harder and harder it will be for me to put into words what I want to say without rambling too much. The next artist I'm thankful for is another predictable one, and that's Paramore. It's hard for me not to pick a time that I'm not thankful for Paramore. It's hard for me to basically pick a time where I'm not thankful, and it's never. I'm always thankful. And this band got me into music itself. How can I not be thankful? I can remember being really excited when Brand New Eyes was about to be released, and it was the first album I was ever really excited about. Fast forward now to a number of years later, and we as fans have been waiting on the anticipated follow-up to After Laughter. You know, of course, that was a different take on Paramore and something I really adored, but as I've grown, so has my music taste. I've allowed myself to really grow as a listener. This is ringing more and more true now, as I've noticed more and more pop music is making it into my listening rotation, something that I didn't think ever would happen. The new song has come out, and it's This Is Why. That's what it's called, and that's the album name. And, you know, with the excitement of the new album and the new material, the excitement is off the charts. I'm in a Paramore Discord, and, you know, during, like, the lull moments, we were trying to anticipate when the next album was, and it was just a little bit of excitement to just talk about that and be ready, and it threw me through a loop. This Is Why is so funky of a song. I love it. And of course, you know, we talked about Haley's solo work, and that did make my best of year last year, and we just talked about the connections to the music. And now, as of the recording of this podcast, we're at the start of a brand new era, and the band honestly sounds the best they have ever, in my opinion. The funkiness and the power behind the lyrics are just showing me why I love Paramore so much and why I love music so much. I'm thankful for them and the friends I've made, of course, and continue to have, and the new connections that are yet to come thanks to Paramore. Music is a universal language to me. At least Paramore is the Rosetta Stone. They are the connection to so many others who share in that love of music and the deep connection anybody can have to music. Life to me was meant to be enjoyed, and Paramore is my reason why I continue to keep going. For this next artist, I decided at last minute to add them, and I know it's weird being this far in and having somebody that was just added like willy-nilly, but when I was really thinking about it and putting my thoughts together and putting, you know, the list together, this artist needed to be on the list. And it's an artist that's been covered in length on this show before, and it's an artist I cannot express enough appreciation for, and that's, of course, the Pretty Reckless. Again, this band is no stranger to this channel, and this year they offered some new music in the form of a compilation which has some covers and some interstitials and some great stuff. There's some great stuff on it, and I can't wait to cover it in the next episode in depth. But much like some of the others on this list, there's very few moments I'm not thinking about this band, and there's very few moments that are not in my music rotation. There are moments when I think of Soundgarden, and again, to me that merits, I say again, but to me it merits its own show. But I often think about the Pretty Reckless when I think about Soundgarden, and I wrote a 5-page review on Death by Rock and Roll, and to me that defined what a modern rock album was, and is. And there are other bands that have gotten some heavier rotation this year, but I found myself thinking about them when they're in down moments, and I think that merits a little bit of a jump in the list, if I'm being honest. And I often revisit Rock and Roll Heaven, the song, without realizing it, and I recently bought a new guitar. It's a Yamaha acoustic, and finding more and more creative energy coming for it, thanks to an artist we're going to be covering later. But one of the songs I often play is Rock and Roll Heaven, and I think that song has a deeper connection to me than I realize, and every time I listen to it, I get lost in the moment. Just to give a small preview, the cover of Loud Love on that album gives me chills. And I talked about When Only Love Can Save Me Now, that song was Chris Cornell's Smiling Down. And for the Pretty Reckless to go on and cover Loud Love, it's just an extension of that. And it's a wonderful cover song. I adore it. I will be creating a playlist of all the artists that I feature in this episode, so check it out in the description below. This next artist, I'm mad that I was too young to appreciate his work and know of his work until well after he passed. I was 11 when he passed, and a lot of his work would have gone over my head at the time. But the next artist I'm thankful for is Warren Zevon. He's a poet and storyteller with a bit of an edge, and his music cuts me deeper just in the right way. And it's too loud to ignore and too loud to not include on this list. I've gained an appreciation for storytelling in music through discovering his catalog really deep this year. And I knew of his music thanks to some videos that I've watched, but this was my chance this year to really dig deep, and it's where I fell in love. And it was also pandemic too, but mainly this past year and the year before that I really dug deep. Stopped at my local shop earlier this year, and they had copies of Bad Luck Streak and Dancing Skull and the Envoy, and that's where the spark really grew. I just love different moments in both those albums, and critically they were not, commercially and critically they were not appreciated, and now they're being appreciated for what they are. And I'm really glad that I have them. And I have Preludes, which is basically Warren's son found a bunch of early recordings of songs that were released as a compilation after he had passed. So it was nice to start there with my collection, but I'm glad to have found two really good albums that I think are timeless. A lot of them are timeless, and I think Warren Zevon deserves its own episode eventually, or even just a solo cast. I don't know, but whenever I talk about people who are best songwriters, Warren Zevon is one of the top of my list, specifically singer-songwriters. And, that would foster conversations about lyrics and how deeper meanings can come from songs. And sometimes there would be songs as deep as the ocean, and then sometimes there are other songs, of course not Warren Zevon's, but songs that are as shallow as a kiddie pool. And there's places for those types of songs. I'm not bashing them, but I guess I'm thankful for Warren's music because it shows an appreciation for the deeper, and especially wordplay. It shows me that I can go deeper with my own writings and my own art and stay true to myself. And and if I stay true to myself, I can make something really special. And I apologize if you're hearing the plane going overhead, but I am recording this a little bit in the evening, and we have some planes going overhead. So if that makes it through, I apologize. I know I said earlier that this list was kind of in tiered order, but the final two are basically tied for the top spot. This may or may not be indicators of high honors in the next episode, but the next artist I'm thankful for is Lights. When the pandemic was first starting and the world was, heading towards the lockdowns and everything, I tracked down the acoustic version of Skin and Earth, and I was told it was really good, and I just decided to take the leap. I hadn't listened to Light's work before, and I was blown away. That record got me through the early times and just when I was feeling lonely. And then, we move a little bit forward ahead, and I was still kind of feeling iffy on things, and I hear about Siberia Acoustic, and I thought, okay, Skin and Earth Acoustic's pretty good. Let me check out Siberia Acoustic, and it's really weird. I'm getting into her acoustic stuff before her mainline music. It's very weird, but again, that got me through a rough mental patch, and also there was a Siberia reissue, and I'm eternally grateful that I was able to grab that because prices for that album are astronomical on vinyl, and Lights offered it for $12, which is unheard of. But we're going to fast forward now to 2022. We're hot off the heels of the best year in music for me, and I wasn't expecting Pep. I was not expecting it to hit as hard as it did. Oh my God. If this is any indication where I'm talking, where my place, it's super high on my best of year list. There were just so many songs that I'd just be listening to on repeat. It was like Underworld had repeated itself again, and I think the song I'm most thankful for off the album is Rent, and I've talked to Lights on Twitter about that, and I don't have Twitter anymore. It's long and complicated, but it spoke to a deep part of myself that undervalued how much I was worth, how much my mind and who I am is worth. And I would often be a people pleaser, and this helped me to not only detach but understand who I should let in my world, and how to have kind of barriers. And I will be the one to set the price of entry into my life, and that's now my stance on current and new connections that I have. Lights might be a pop queen, but her music has shown me that done right, pop music can hit deep, even deeper than some darker songs and even metal songs. And I know this is a long shot. I just want to thank Lights. Earlier this year, I got a happy birthday tweet. There's been a couple of interactions on Twitter. I know socials are what they are, but it meant a lot. And just a couple of interactions I've had have been wonderful. Hope to see Lights live one day. That would be wonderful. But I'm thankful for the couple of interactions that I have had and just the album in general, because of the new music that's come out this year, this Pep has helped me the most. And I am eternally thankful for that. I wish Marichen was here for this final artist, because I would love to have a conversation and everything. But I'm going to just take a moment and say thank you to Marichen. Without her, this podcast would not be here, and it's just so nice to have a wonderful co-host to bounce ideas off and just sit here for an hour and just talk music. I am ever thankful that I was blessed to meet Marichen, and I know she's listening to this beforehand because I always vet every episode before it goes out to y'all. We make sure to present the best episode we can to y'all, and I just wish she was here for this next part, because I've tried to show her this artist before, and I know we'll cover it in a future episode. It's coming. There's a future episode planned where we can really kind of dig deeper, but I wish things would have laid out differently, but it is what it is. But Marichen, I'm thankful. When you get to this part, I just want to say thank you. Genuinely, it's so nice to have a wonderful friend who we could sit here and just talk music for forever. With that out of the way, the final artist I'm thankful for is Jenna McDougall, also known now as Heaven She. I've touched on the past on my personal YouTube and this podcast about the band Tonight Alive. And to say them and Paramore are a part of the existence of me would be an understatement. In 2018, the album Underworld dropped in January, and I listened to it daily, almost like a ritual to get me through the day, much like I listened to Pep by Lights. And, I was hot off the heels of kicking someone toxic out of my life, and I was lost. I honestly was lost, and I didn't know who I was, and life had just become a chore, if I'm being 100% honest. And that album defined what an album was to me, and is still. Much like Death by Rock and Roll redefined, heavy rock and everything. This is just one of my favorite albums ever. To me, it defined how deeply lyrics could cut someone to the very essence of who they are. I was able to see the band live, and I was eagerly waiting on the next chapter of music. One of the ways I got through the pandemic was following Jenna's Instagram account. It felt like just a little bit of reach to the world, and there were a couple of times where we had connected in the comments about daily journals, and I've moved past that. I found my ways to find fulfillment in life and different things, but I cherish those connections, those couple of every couple of moments where there was just a random, like on the comment. And I know it's social media, and I know it's all that, but that little bit of that moment of reaching out truly meant a lot. It was tough going through 2020, and I know it birthed the podcast. I know I've made friends through Discords and everything, and a lot's happened since then, and it's just one part of my life that was there. And, again, I was not without my connections. There were others who had followed. I had friends who I do weekly voice calls with. I was not without connections, even in the chaos. Like I said, the podcast was birthed. But it was just through some of the posts that I felt a deeper connection to myself and where I was spiritually in my life. We're going to move ahead to 2022, and Jenna announces that she's releasing solo music. She was also under a new name, sonically, musically, haven't she? And I knew right away. It was one of the moments where I knew right away that I wanted to support whatever this project was. I owed it to Jenna for all the help and all the meaningful moments that I had through Tonight Alive through the years. And I love vocal performances. As much as I love guitar, I'm a very vocal-minded person. And it was Jenna's voice that would reach out oftentimes when things were dark through the music and really help me. So like I said, I wanted to support whatever project she was making, or there's no amount of words that I could say how thankful I am. After the first single dropped, I knew I was in for something special on the listening journey, and there was inklings of a Patreon coming out, and I did not hesitate to throw my support in. It just no brainer. It's the least I can do, again, for all the years that music has helped me. And, there's a great community now that I'm a part of where I have met some truly wonderful humans. If any of you are listening, thank you so much for listening. Y'all are great. It's great to chat with y'all every single day. It's, through this community that I have gotten the courage to start back up with my art. If you haven't followed the podcast Instagram, I began posting some of my artwork as the recording this. There's only one piece, but every single episode is kind of like a mini hype for the new episode. I'll be posting a new art piece before it comes out. And I'm also starting to write my own music and be comfortable with my singing voice. I'm thankful for Heaven She's music. I'm thankful for Jenna's music. I'm thankful for the wonderful community that's been fostered by wonderful people. And most of all, I'm thankful for Jenna. This is truly the first time I'm actively involved in something, seeing something so amazing from basically the near beginning and seeing this passion grow. Each new song has been something different, and I've not connected to music this deeply in a very long time. And I listen to a lot of things, and that's not discounting the work of anybody. But again, it's something that I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I don't blame myself for this or oversaturation of listening habits. I'll always be listening for new things to excite me, but they're just very few artists I can hold in high regard for how much their work has truly and deeply cut me and formed me as a person as I do now. And I'm so thankful. If you made it this far, I want to thank you so very much for listening to this episode of Collector's Confessional, dear listener. All the links to everybody's socials, Marichen, myself, and the podcast can be found in the description of this video. I really want to thank every listener to this podcast. It means the world to myself, and I know, Marichen, that you, the listener, took time out of your day to sit down and listen. And even if it's just the first 5 minutes and you're done with the day, that means a lot. But if you made it here, it's truly meaningful to me. You know, our time on this planet is very precious, and every second is meaningful. Marichen will be back in February, but keep a sharp ear out for my best of 2022 list. That'll be coming out in December. Again, so very thankful for every single one of our listens. Even one listen means the world to us. So, again, thank you. As I say at the end of everything that I'm in, that I produce myself, when the waters get rough, please keep on sailing. You are loved, wanted, adored, shining, and a testament to how amazing humans can be. Even if you feel like no one else is rooting for you, that, you know, there are dark thoughts at the moment, you feel lonely, that you feel alone, you're not. I am always on your side rooting for you. You are wonderful, you are unique, you are beautiful. Please, please keep going. Please. There are greater moments than you realize out there, and there are moments to look forward to. Please keep, take care of yourselves, and I wish you a happy Thanksgiving. If you made it this far, I want to thank you so very much for listening to this episode of Collector's Confessional, dear listener. All the links to everybody's socials, Marichen, myself, and the podcast can be found in the description of this video. I really want to thank every listener to this podcast. It means the world to myself, and I know, Marichen, that you, the listener, took time out of your day to sit down and listen. And even if it's just the first 5 minutes and you're done with the day, that means a lot. But if you made it here, it's truly meaningful to me. You know, our time on this planet is very precious, and every second is meaningful. Marichen will be back in February, but keep a sharp ear out for my best of 2022 list. That'll be coming out in December. Again, so very thankful for every single one of our listens. Even one listen means the world to us. So, again, thank you. As I say at the end of everything that I'm in, that I produce myself, when the waters get rough, please keep on sailing. You are loved, wanted, adored, shining, and a testament to how amazing humans can be. Even if you feel like no one else is rooting for you, that, there are dark thoughts at the moment, you feel lonely, that you feel alone, you're not. I am always on your side rooting for you. You are wonderful, you are unique, you are beautiful. Please, please keep going. Please. There are greater moments than you realize out there, and there are moments to look forward to. Please keep, take care of yourselves, and I wish you a happy Thanksgiving.